Welcome to the first ever episode of the Chopped On Podcast. This podcast is your weekly Braves news, updates, reactions to everything in Braves country. I am here with my co-host today, and we are going to be talking about our first episode of the season right before upcoming opening day. How you doing today?
We're doing good here. Just getting ready for opening day coming up this Thursday. And just getting ready for the new Braves season.
Excited for baseball to be back 100%. All right, so in this episode, we're going to go over some off-season things, especially the more recent ones, like Jurickson Profar. That we'll talk about that a little bit, but that was earlier on. We're going to talk about stuff that happened in the last couple of weeks mainly, and get ready for this opening series against the Padres. So let's get right into it. Opening day, this coming Thursday, the 27th of March. I'm excited for it. The Dodgers and the Cubs have already played 2 games in Japan, but this is the real opening day. This is when all the teams are going to be lining up to play baseball, and I'm really excited for it. Opening day, the pitchers have already been announced. For the road Atlanta Braves, it's going to be Chris Sale, last year's Cy Young Award winner, and Michael King, who dominated the Braves last season in the playoffs, is going to be starting for the Padres. So tell me a little bit about this pitching matchup.
Yeah, well, Chris Sale is obviously Cy Young. Obviously, that just tells you enough about how good he is. But Michael King in the playoffs last year, they beat us 4-0. He pitched 7 innings, 5 hits, and 12 strikeouts. So that's got to show something about his overall skill level. And, yeah, 0 earned runs as well.
Yeah, he was tremendous in that game. The Braves, the whole season as a whole really led to Kevin Seitzer, the hitting coach, getting fired. But that game specifically, man, it was like the Braves were just trying to get a home run every single at bat. They couldn't do much of anything, and it was just really bad baseball being played in that series. So, new hitting coach in town. Hopefully the Braves are more, not void of power, but not just solely focused on it, because that was one of the, besides injuries, that was one of the main problems for the Braves offense last year. Trying to hit home runs instead of playing well-rounded baseball, which involves small ball at times, getting singles and driving in runners the old-fashioned way instead of just trying to hit a bomb every time you swing. So, this is kind of our projected starting lineup here. Obviously, Acuna is going to be out for a good while before he gets back a little bit later in the season. Hopefully, it's sometime in May. That would be nice. Maybe even April, I guess, is optimistic. But anyways, this is our lineup we're kind of rolling with. Obviously, Sean Murphy as well is going to be out a little while. Not too long, but Drake Baldwin, from what we've seen in his minor league outings and in spring training, has really impressed so far. But getting to our lineup here, we have Jurickson Profar in the leadoff spot. It was kind of up for debate whether he or Michael Harris would be in this position, honestly. But Profar, word on the street is that Profar likely will be the leadoff guy. Big acquisition from the Padres last year, and he had a tremendous season.
Yeah, he's been with the Padres for a
long time.
Very long time, and he's been good for basically every year he's been there, or at least good enough to keep his same starting spot for all of the year.
But last year was
one of his better years overall. And then now let's just go down the line to probably the number 2 in our lineup. Michael Harris has been overall consistently good and great in the outfield. I mean, absolutely insane in the outfield. I mean, you can never not trust on his defense. And I mean, if we could get his bat just a little bit better, where he could be consistently getting hits and stuff, I mean, he would be one of the...
Yeah, I think if he could be a more patient batter, that would help him out a lot, because he really is aggressive. He chases a lot of pitches outside the zone. If he can clean up on that, he's going to be a tremendous, tremendous player. I think some of those analytical projections are expecting that this season from him. Now we get to a guy who is really hit hard with injuries last year and just struggled overall. That's Austin Riley. He had a good season given all the injuries, but those really held him back last year. We expect improvement from him. Matt Olson, a little bit of a down year for him as well, but even in a down year, he was still a really good first baseman, a top 5 to 7 guy in the MLB. Marcell Ozuna has just been a really consistent, great hitter the past couple of seasons for the Braves. Hopefully that continues for them. Ozzie Albies is another one of those injury-prone guys. And Drake Baldwin, like we were talking about, taking the spot right now in place of Sean Murphy, at least until he gets back, and who knows, if he proves himself, it's probably going to be like a, one day Drake catches, another day Sean Murphy catches type of thing, so we'll see. What are your thoughts on Jarred Kelenic? I know we have him here over a guy like Brian De La Cruz and like Alex Verdugo and guys. It looks like it's between Kelenic and Brian De La Cruz, and we think Kelenic has the edge, but what are your thoughts on Jarred Kelenic, a guy we acquired last season? Had a decent start to the season, but kind of tapered off near the end.
I mean, really the same thing. His glove has been consistently pretty good. I mean, obviously not like on Michael Harris level, but pretty good. But I mean, his main problem is he just needs to get his bat going. Cause I mean, like you said early in the season, his bat was looking good, and he was looking like a consistent player. He could be performing year after year. But then, like when we got into like the middle of the season, it started to get more and more like inconsistent, and
eventually to where he got benched.
Yeah, benched. So yeah.
Formerly a top prospect with the Mariners. Hopefully he can figure it out. And then finally, last in our order, Orlando Arcia. This was a position that we kind of thought the Braves might at least try and get a bigger name in this spot. Orlando struggled for a lot of last season. Hopefully he can have a better season than he did last year. Maybe, I don't want to say it like negatively, but make do until the trade deadline, or someone like Nacho Alvarez can step up or something like that. But Orlando, former All-Star, so we got to give him the respect he deserves, but didn't have a great year last year. Kind of expected them to go for like a Willie Adames or a Ha-Seong Kim or someone like that, but Orlando was going to be the starting shortstop opening day for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I mean, he was, the year before last year was consistently getting on base, getting hits, getting homered. But I mean, you could tell he was probably not going to be a consistent player, because right after the All-Star break, his stats started, or like, honestly, after he got picked to be an All-Star, his stats started going back down, started striking out way more and everything. So, I mean, you could kind of just tell that he's not going to be one of those super consistent, overall, like, great shortstops in the major leagues.
Kind of like a Bryce Elder type. I mean, no disrespect to him, but Bryce Elder was an All-Star, but it didn't hold on or last very long, at least as it is right now. But anyways, that's our projected opening day starting lineup. And this is a good group, man. Drake Baldwin's a guy who I actually expect really big things from. He's got a phenomenal eye for a catcher. At the plate, he takes a lot of walks. He's not going to force anything, so I like that a lot. Now let's get into some recent offseason additions. Alex Verdugo was picked up on a cheap contract. Kind of shocking that no one wanted to have him on their team as like a, their third outfielder or maybe like the first guy off the bench type of guy. But for the Braves, man, he's right now going to be assigned to a minor league camp. We'll see if he ends up being like the fifth outfielder that's on the bench a lot for the Braves, which is very possible. But, I mean, when Acuna gets back, you're going to have guys like Kelenic likely and Brian De La Cruz that are both on the bench in those outfield spots. There's not much room, but it's a good signing for the value they got him 100%.
Yeah, it was a good signing with how much we spent to get him overall. And, I mean, if we have like Acuna get injured again, which fingers crossed, hopefully not, because he's been through a lot already, and we know what he can do from that MVP season. So if he gets to stay healthy all season for like the rest of his career, I mean, the Braves should be good for long runs with him. I mean, even if he did get injured, we'd probably still be good for a long run because we know what he can do, and he's still one of the best players in baseball. But, yeah, if any of the outfielders got injured or, like, multiple, we have Alex Verdugo, so we could easily put a guy who can definitely be trusted to, like, not mess up in the game to, like, save our season at least. I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Yeah, moving on to our next edition. Craig Kimbrell is back to the Atlanta Braves, where he got it all started. And this is kind of just a, might as well kind of signing, if you will. I don't expect him to be in the bullpen out of the gate, but we'll see if there's any juice left in the tank. I mean, he's had a great, phenomenal, long career, and if there's anything left in the tank, man, he's been a Brave for a large portion of his career, and if he's still got some stuff in there, and he can provide some big innings down the line. We'll just see, but I'm definitely glad to have him back in the building as a great veteran presence.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have Craig Kimbrell back on the Braves. I mean, he's been consistently one very consistent good pitcher for all the major leagues. And, I mean, yeah. Also, just saying his insane pitching style of how he just pitches in the most weird way possible is pretty insane as well.
Yeah, it's very intense. It's very entertaining when you get to watch that in person. And the fashion icon himself, Jesse, only good with the Braves, Chavez,
yes!
is now back in the Atlanta uniform.
We have Jesse Chavez back. The only time he's ever good is with the Braves.
Yeah, it is weird how interesting his career's been. He's been a Brave. He's signed with the Braves now. Goodness, I mean, probably 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times. He's been released, brought back, traded, brought back. And all kinds of stuff. But Jesse Chavez, I don't expect him to, be, who knows, honestly. He could be a phenomenal reliever yet again, a sub-3 ERA, and who knows. But Jesse Chavez, just Mr. Consistent out there, and he gets the job done for the Braves, man. That's really all you can say about it. So this is not a bad signing at all.
Yeah, that's really all you can say. I mean, he's not consistent when he's on the Angels and other teams, and he's always consistent when he's on the Braves. So I'm glad to have him back on the Braves, and hopefully he can keep being consistent for us.
And his fashion is always top tier. It's just
I mean, just look at the screen right now. I mean,
we still got the tag on the hat. That's just phenomenal. Right there.
I mean, yeah.
All right. In other news, the Atlanta Braves have traded away former World Series champion Ian Anderson, who was a couple of outs, man, away from throwing a no-hitter in the World Series for Jose Suarez. And Jose Suarez, we'll get into him in a second, but let's focus on Ian Anderson real quick, because I at one point had high hopes that Ian Anderson was going to be able to make his way back through all he's dealt with and get back into the Atlanta rotation or at least bullpen at some point. And I still thought it was possible when he got traded, but he didn't have the greatest spring training, had some trouble with walks. But, man, love Ian Anderson. Very important part of what happened in that 2021 World Series run. So it's great to see him get a chance to start for the Angels, which he almost certainly will. And we get a piece back in Jose Suarez. So what are your thoughts on Ian Anderson being traded?
Yeah, I mean, very happy with what he did with the Braves, and then obviously all the injuries and stuff that affected him. It was hard for him to just get back to his normal self. But, I mean, good for him for going to the Angels, because they obviously always will need pitching help, basically. So
Ron Washington needs
him. So, I mean, it would be just a great experience for him to get back to pitching in the major league, even though, like, on one of the better teams, he might not be exactly ready yet. But, I mean, for the Angels, I mean, he would probably be right in the starting rotation right away.
They need all the help they can get. All right, on to talking about Jose Suarez, a guy who has been with the Angels for his entire career. And he's had just up and downs. Former starter for the Angels, who had some decent years, 2021 and 2022 specifically. But as a bullpen guy, the last couple of years he's has inconsistencies. One thing that you always know about Suarez, he's got real upside as a guy who can strike you out, right? Averages about a strikeout an inning. He's a guy who, from the left-handed side, can at least give you someone who you believe can get outs when you need him at times via the strikeout. So hopefully he's a good bullpen piece, or at least a very good depth piece for the Braves, but we'll see how that works out for us. I don't know if we could have got back more for Ian Anderson, but I think this is a fine trade. And on to our starting rotation, the kind of camp battle between guys like Ian Anderson, A.J. Smith-Shawver, Grant Holmes kind of locked up his spot earlier than those guys, but your other guys mixed in there as well, like your Bryce Elders. But it kind of seems like this is trending to be the opening day starting rotation, at least very close to it. With no Spencer Strider, that opens up the spot for a guy like A.J. Smith-Shawver to slide into that 5-hole for now and prove himself until someone does, until Spencer can come back. But Chris Sale, obviously your opening day ace, coming off of Cy Young, had a tremendous season last year. And we talked about him earlier. Reynaldo Lopez, a guy who I feel like is still going under the radar, had a tremendous year last year. I mean, was hand in hand with Chris Sale for most of the year as far as the stats were concerned. Taper off a little bit near the end, but if Reynaldo plays anything like he did last year, he's going to be a great number 2 guy to have.
Yeah, and this is definitely the correct lineup in my mind for now. But obviously when Spencer Strider comes back, he's going to be at least on the number 2. So, one of the, A.J. Smith-Shawver or, Grant Holmes are going to have to compete to show themselves to who wants to stay in their starting rotation and who wants to get kicked out, because obviously Spencer Strider is one of the best pitchers in baseball with Chris Sale. So, obviously he's going to be in there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think these top 3 guys, and we're talking about Spencer Schwellenbach next, I think these top 3 guys are kind of locked in to the starting rotation for the long term. They'd have to probably struggle for a while or get injured to get moved out of that rotation. But Spencer Schwellenbach, man, how impressive was he last year? Just a tremendous first season with the Braves. A guy who, coming out of college, was a shortstop and pitcher, kind of in the two-way player Shohei Ohtani role, kind of. But really found his way pitching and has been tremendous for the Braves last year. A dark horse, man. I've seen some guys talk about him as a dark horse Cy Young. This is a guy who throws upwards of 5 pitches and is just tremendous. So I love having him here in the 3 spot. Grant Holmes, a guy who really proved himself last year in some starts and some bullpen action as well. He played really good. But, the depth is something I want to get to here as well. A.J. Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, as much as he's struggled recently, he's a former All-Star, so he does at least have that under his belt. And then you got prospects like Hurston Waldrep in there as well. You have guys that can be really good depth pieces for the Braves, and especially when Spencer Strider gets back, this is going to be one of the best rotations in baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be up there with one of the best rotations in all of baseball. Just need to keep everybody healthy, really. That's one of the most important things for every rotation in the major leagues, really. Just keep everybody healthy and just make sure, you don't go too hard with them as well, because you don't want them to do something, because you just want to have them pitch one extra inning, then you don't have to have them do.
Yeah, and you want to have them for the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You want to have that there. Let's finish up with our overall season preview and thoughts here. I think the Braves are going to have a tremendous bounce-back season for multiple reasons. I think the kind of new hitting philosophy is going to help things out a lot. Swinging, not swinging for power, but mixing in more contact and having more willingness to put the ball in play more, have less strikeouts, play better fundamental baseball in that way.
Yeah, all I'll say is if there's one guy I'll be fine with swinging and just trying to get homers, it would be Marcell, because he was the only guy last year that was actually succeeding at what that batting coach wanted, which was just hitting homers. They call him the Big Bear for a reason, because he hits tanks all the time.
Yeah, he is tremendous. But I think the hitting will turn around a little bit. We might not see as many homers as usual, but I think we're going to see more overall runs, and that is perfectly fine, especially if everyone stays injured and guys like Acuna come back at least at mostly healthy. So, and pitching, I think this is going to be one of the better pitching staffs in baseball. I think when Spencer Strider comes back, we saw him pitch tremendously in his first outing in spring. He was just dominating. He was striking out almost all but one batter he faced in spring training. He was just tremendous. So if he comes back happy and healthy, then this pitching staff's going to be great. And if someone does struggle, you got guys waiting in the wings that can step up as well, hopefully. So I think this Braves team can contest for 100 wins and a 1 seed in the NL, with up there with the Dodgers, just depending on how things work out. Because baseball is baseball. Injuries are going to happen. You're going to have some slumps here and there. But we'll see. I'm really excited for the season.
Yeah, I feel like with no injury, we're going to expect like what we were expecting in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. NLCS at least. Cause, I mean, is what the people should expect too, honestly. Dodgers and Braves in the NLCS, because we're clearly already shown basically in 2020 and 2021 that if we're both healthy, we're basically the best teams in the NL. So, I mean, yeah, if we just stay healthy, we're going to be one of the best teams in all of baseball. Now, I mean, I'm not going to go insane and make these hot takes like we're going to be better than the Dodgers. Because, I mean, obviously, we're going to be a very good team, but obviously we just don't have, like, a whole all-star lineup, basically. But if we stay healthy, we're going to have the potential to win the World Series and beat anybody there. I mean, even if we don't stay healthy, we still have the potential to win the World Series, but it just skyrockets way more with every player that is supposedly supposed to be in our starting lineup. Like Acuna actually playing in the playoffs for his full healthy self for one time actually in their actual career would be awesome. And like having Austin Riley and all of them would be great.
Yeah, I really do think that it's possible the Braves can definitely win this World Series this year. They're going to contend for it, and hopefully they can get it done. So I'm looking forward to the season. It is about to get started. Padres, we're going to fly over to San Diego and give them our best shot. So we'll see what happens. We'll be back next week to react to the opening weekend of baseball, and we'll see you guys then. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the Chopped On Podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Let us know, because we're trying to be the #1 Braves podcast on YouTube. So let's go. All right. Thank you for tuning in.
Brave band, chop on.